Welcome into the Wednesday night edition of the Longhorn Livestream. My name is Jerry Hamilton, joined by CJ Vogel. Rod Babers may or may not join us here. He's got a little something he's taking care of. I think he may be in a little bit later. A lot to talk about tonight, guys. Obviously, there's a lot of questions about it. Samaje Burrell is no longer part of the Texas team. I'm sure we'll get a lot of questions and talk about that. We got a lot of recruiting stuff to talk about. Modern day four-star wide receiver Marcus Harris will be in town tonight. We'll attend Texas practice tomorrow, as will Jonathan Cunningham, 2025 linebacker from North Crowley, and then Jackson Blackwell, 2025 defensive lineman from Lorena, Texas, near Waco. That Texas is taking a serious look at, a guy that's he's on the rise with college coaches. He's got Arizona and Baylor official visits set. Hello. Tell us where you're checking in from. I do that in the morning, but man. Yes, Sark recruiting Burrell, rear-ended Sweat, and then that's what caused the wreck, and then Sweat was arrested. That is all correct. We also have a special guest joining us about 7:30, guys. One you want to stick around for, one you want to tell your friends to jump on in. We're not going to tell you who that is, but I think people will be happy to see who we have on tonight, and get your questions ready. It'll be recruiting questions. All right, CJ, I guess initial thoughts. By the way, Texas back on the practice field tomorrow as well. Initial thoughts on the Samaje Burrell news. We saw him with a sling on Saturday, walking around, but obviously he's no longer with the team.
Yeah, very unfortunate. I mean, in every account that I've encountered Samaje, I'd consider him to be a great kid. I think he just got on the wrong end of what ended up being some serious bad luck and a bad decision, and he's paying the price for it. He was in a sling. He got dinged up in the weight room last week, did not participate in the scrimmage, and was not going to participate in the spring game. He was going to enter the NCAA transfer portal when the window opened up on April 15th. Now, no longer a choice of his. He will be, he was dismissed from the Texas football program on Tuesday. So very unfortunate. New beginnings down the road for Samaje. But regardless if the accident happened or not, he was headed out the door to the NCAA transfer portal as well. So I just at this point hope he learns and certainly finds a way to better himself for it.
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate. It's tough way to go into the portal. I'll say that. We'll see what happens there. Some people are asking about Bear Alexander. He put out today on social media he's staying at USC. Look, obviously the portal window opens April 16th, closes April 30th. But he said he's staying at USC. I spoke with a source close to USC program this morning, and at the time, I mean, I think CJ heard some of that phone call. They said they'd be surprised if he actually entered the portal. So again, on Bear Alexander, I said this the other day, CJ, when some of this started the break about Bear Alexander expected to enter the portal. That would almost be weird to me. Or a bad decision in some ways if Eric Henderson, the hand-picked defensive line coach of Aaron Donald for his whole NFL career, is hired at USC and then you walk away. I mean, so I actually think for Bear, who went to 4 or 5 high schools, I lost track of the timeline, 4 or 5 high schools in 4 years and already transferred from Georgia to USC. I actually think it's a good decision, and not that it was solely a football decision. I'm not going to beat around the bush on that. That's obvious. But that he's actually going to be in one place for 2 years in a row. He hasn't been since middle school.
Yeah.
That's a long time to not be in the same place, same school, same team 2 years in a row. It's a good thing for Bear.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for one, I think he might be a little bit happy about this year. No one likes moving, especially when you're moving apartment to apartment across, county lines, state lines, across the country and the different time zones. Shoot. If I didn't have to pick up my bags, and which I'm sure he has a lot of as well, I'm sure he would be very happy sticking around in one spot for a second consecutive year. One thing that, like you said, has not been the case in his recruitment. I will add, it wouldn't surprise me if we see a development with Bear later on, whether it be another flirtation with the portal, an actual entrance to the portal. It wouldn't surprise me right now. Of course, he made his announcement earlier today saying, I'm happy at USC. I don't know where this is coming from. I'm sticking here. It would not surprise me per se to see this potentially rise up again later on.
So somebody's asking about Silas Bolden. Any chance he sticks at Oregon State with the loaded wide receiver room? I don't think that's. I'd be surprised. Silas Bolden has a big old competitive chip on his shoulder in a good way. That would surprise me. We'll run some double checks on that. But I'll be surprised if Silas Bolden's not playing at Texas next year. Super chat from Juan. What happened to Ray Peters? Ray's enjoying his retired life. He's on Texas football. He posts from time to time. We'll see if he comes back and hosts a little bit for us as well. One of the funnier guys. I'm a big fan of Ray there. That Matai on the whole Silas Bolden, maybe looking at the prospects at Oregon State. It's a much different team than last season, new coaching staff and everything as well. I agree with that. I think Silas Bolden wants to play his final season in the SEC. I think he likes the idea of being on the Texas team, a team that is going to be ranked in the top 5 preseason in the country. So I'll be surprised if he's not at Texas. Casey, Bears handler, doing him no favors. We're not going to bring that question up, but I do agree. It's Bear Alexander expected to stay at USC. Texas will be back on the practice field tomorrow, CJ. It'll be interesting. Then another scrimmage / practice on Saturday. We're trying to get it confirmed, but it doesn't appear like John Turntine will be in this weekend. I'm double checking on that. He may come in at a later date next week. He's already been to Texas 2 times since midway point in the season. But Texas will have a number of visitors on campus tomorrow. Marcus Harris, again, those of you just joined us from Mater Dei, as well as Jackson Blackwell from Lorena. I watched him throw the discus a couple of weeks ago at a district track meet, and he's a guy who can bend. He's got good ankle flexion. He's a guy who, he's 6'2 and a quarter, 6'2 and a half, about 3'11. I'm saying without shoes is probably my guess. He may measure 6'3 somewhere, about 3'11, but he looks like he weighs 285. He's one of those guys that carries his weight really, really well. Big hands, long arms, barrel-chested kid. Looks like a football player that's an athlete in the discus ring. That's what he looked like to me. So a guy Texas is taking a serious look at. Obviously, Baylor, Arizona, U of H, TCU. He was just at TCU last week as well. So his recruitment's continuing to pick up steam after he went to the Under Armour camp in Dallas and tested well. 4'6" laser shuttle at 310 pounds.
Wow.
That dog will hunt in recruiting. When colleges see that, they're like, whoa. So that's a big development for Jackson Blackwell. Then Jonathan Cunningham, the linebacker from North Crowley. We had a question here that I wanted to bring up a second ago. Kim, Jerry, does Texas take 3 or 4 linebackers in 2025, CJ? I think that number is going to be 3.
I agree.
Now, if there's another attrition spot at linebacker, you already have 1, maybe the number goes to 4, but I think it's going to be 3.
I do too, and I think you're looking at it, DFW specifically for where those guys come from. Of course, we've talked about Riley Pettijohn at length. Elijah Barnes just visited Texas this weekend as well, and now Jonathan Cunningham coming down this week. That might give you an indication of where Texas wants to go. Of course, Johnny Nansen likes those linebackers to be very lengthy, have a lot of speed in their bag as well. We talked about the 10.77 and then 10.96 of both of those. Riley Pettijohn and Elijah Barnes earlier this week. Another guy to keep a close eye on is Matai Tungai, who's currently committed to USC at the moment, was expected on campus this weekend at Texas, didn't make it in. We'll see if that visit gets rescheduled, if official visits get locked in down the road as well. We'll see. But right now, I mean, you're looking at the DFW area specifically for where Texas is really hitting on their linebackers, and I agree with you there. I think 3 guys is the class that you'll see. Of course, after taking 1 a year ago, you got to bounce back and keep that engine turning when it comes to the depth machine.
All right, before we take some more questions, a lot of questions about Bear Alexander and Samaje Burrell tonight. I want to take a second for our sponsor. You see it up there. It's Andy Ludicky, my franchise, myperfectfranchise.net. you want to take control of your own destiny, then maybe franchise ownership is right for you. If you think that could be the case, then call Andy Ludicky. He's an expert at placing people in the right franchise that fits your strengths and finances. Franchise ownership is not for everyone, but if you have desire to take control of your own destiny, call Andy or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Thank you to Andy Ludicky for being the sponsor of the Wednesday night Longhorn live stream. We have a super chat there that we're going to get to right now. Jerry, 2 questions. You shocked by Samaje Burrell transfer? Also, last year we talked about A&M is not going to be a juggernaut in recruiting, or are they going to be like they were when they're in the Big 12? So, CJ, well, it's Samaje Burrell. Go through that again. We knew he was going to transfer, but then obviously he's been removed from the team today.
Yeah, even before this weekend occurred, he was expecting to enter his name in the NCAA transfer portal on April 15th when the window opened. This was something that he and his camp had, certainly decided about, kind of debated and opted that this was going to be the best move for him. I think really it dated back a little bit. Folks in his camp were looking at the idea of a transfer even before this spring started because of that linebacking room and where Texas started to add pieces. Of course, he was long in the fold before Anthony Hill came along, Darian Gillette, Leon Galafal. Going out and adding Kendrick Blackshear in the portal as well, I'm sure played a role in that as well. So he was looking to portal regardless of what happened today. He was, of course, kicked off the team or dismissed from the team on Tuesday. So it no longer was up to him, a decision he was able to make, unfortunately. But he will be looking to play football somewhere else when the portal officially opens up on Monday.
And look, there's going to be some guys that leave the Texas program that are really good players. That's what happens when the depth that's been built by Sarkisian becomes really evident. And there's going to be some guys that will leave this program this spring in the NCAA transfer portal that will go on and be really good players at other places. Some of those guys will be Power 5 or Power 4 football players and be really, really good. That's just where Texas program's at. There is a lot of talent on the offensive line at numerous positions. So if just because a guy transfers doesn't mean he's not, that Texas didn't like him or they didn't think he was a really good player. It's just a real fight for time right now and to get on the field. And in some instances, some guys are going to look at a different avenue to get on that field. And that's going to happen when you have this much talent in the program. Juan, the second question is A&M not going to be a juggernaut in recruiting. So look, I mean, A&M is a player in the NIL race, one of the top, I would say 5 or 6 in the country. You could argue higher. So A&M is going to recruit fine. Now, I do think Mike Elko needs to put a good product on the field this year, win enough games this year to kind of create that momentum. Because when a new coach is hired, you're selling your vision, right? And you want that vision to become a reality in recruiting. I do think because Texas is very much on the upswing, obviously.
Yes.
Oklahoma year 3 under Venables, both those schools moving into the SEC. That adds a little more pressure to Mike Elko right now, the hire for Texas A&M, because the toughest thing to compete with in recruiting if you're A&M is when Texas is really, really good. And now both Texas and Oklahoma are going to be in the SEC, CJ, with Texas coming off a playoff appearance and ranked top 5 preseason next year and about to have 10 guys drafted. So this is when Jimbo Fisher was at A&M, he didn't have to recruit against this Texas. This is a different Texas now.
Yeah, I would say 3 things worked in favor of Jimbo Fisher very heavily when he was at A&M. First off, A&M was the only team in the state in the SEC. Second, Texas was not winning football games. They weren't developing players. They weren't sending guys to the league, and they certainly were disappointing on a year-in, year-out basis. And then, of course, you look at it in the terms of the continual coaching turnover that Texas had when it came to Charlie Strong, to Tom Herman, and eventually Steve Sarkisian. It was easy to sell a future, but it wasn't something tangible that recruits could see and say, "Yeah, I want to go be a part of that now." The other thing Jimbo had in his bag that he could recruit on, or at least lean back on, was I've won a national championship in the past. Wow. And for Mike Elko right now, that's not necessarily the case for either of the 3. Texas is in the SEC. Texas is winning football games on the field. And, oh, yeah, what have you necessarily done that Steve Sarkisian or Sonny Dykes or even Joey McGuire has not done as a head coach. So that's going to be the uphill battle that he's facing early on for A&M. Like you said, it's going to be very important for that team to win early. You have a talented quarterback. You got some talented pieces. The trenches, especially on the offense side of the ball, might not be exactly where you would expect it to be, especially after these recruiting classes of the past couple of years. But right now, I think if you're Elko, you got to keep your quarterback healthy, and you got to find a way to string together some momentum on the field for recruits to see the vision, similarly to how we saw with Sarkisian going from 5-7 to 8-5, now to 11-1 in the regular season. 12-2 overall. So it's little steps, but right now it's a tall hill to climb.
Barry Longhorn, what's the latest with Josiah Sharma, defensive tackle out of Folsom High? Look, everything we're hearing is Alabama, Texas, Alabama lead the way on this recruitment. He's scheduled to officially visit Texas June 14th through 16th. Alabama on the 21st through 23rd of June. I'm sure Washington, I think, set up for May. Utah could get a visit as well. Georgia offered. He visited Oklahoma the same week he visited Alabama and Texas. I think the Texas visit went really well, and now it's going to come down to those official visits, and we'll see what happens. Somebody also asked about Jamie French. Texas moved into the top 3 for Jamie French, the wide receiver out of Jacksonville Mandarin, along with Ohio State and Tennessee. Jamie French scheduled to be back for June 21st through 23rd for an official visit. Miami will remain in that one. Florida State will probably be in that somewhere. But right now, the top 3 are Ohio State, Tennessee, and Texas. Somebody also asked about Jonah Williams. Justin asked about that. Look, I spoke with somebody last night that still thinks Oklahoma is the favorite for Jonah Williams, that Texas did a good job in that visit Saturday. Jonah and his parents were there. Obviously, his father was a star at Galveston Ball, played at the University of Houston. Jonah Williams he says he's going to take an official visit to Texas in June. As of Monday, they didn't have a date locked in. Now, he also doesn't have many dates locked in. I think he has one right now to Oregon. So we'll see as they juggle who's going to get those official visits. He's got to dance around summer baseball, really good baseball player. That actually factors into the recruitment. But he's spent a lot of time with Steve Sarkisian and Blake Gideon on Saturday. Texas is all in on Jonah Williams. See how much gap they can close on the leader, Oklahoma. So that's a little about that. And somebody else asked about Jonah Williams as well.
Jerry, one other top 3 I wanted to mention that included Texas is Rustin cornerback Aiden Anding, who visited campus over the weekend. He said in his interview that we put up on TexasFootball.com earlier today that Texas is in his top 3 right now with Miami and Arkansas. So interesting. A cornerback, one that I think is very highly talented out of Louisiana, not necessarily including the Tigers in his top 3 or even top group at the moment. Texas has had success in Louisiana in the past. And this is one where I think interest was instantly reciprocated on when the offer was extended March 28th. Of course, he got in the car, drove 6.5, 7 hours to get up to Texas for the visit over the weekend. Right now, I think Texas is going to be a player for Aiden Anding. And, of course, getting that official visit locked in June 21st through 23rd is going to be a big one as well.
And when you look for guys that Texas is in on, has official visits set with, that I think are going to blow up in the spring evaluation period, which begins into April, I think Aiden Anding is that guy. Yeah. I think you're going to see multiple SEC offers come in for him. Texas did a good job getting on that quickly after he kind of blew up at the Under Armour camp in Dallas and put up some really good times. Those are laser start, laser finish. I was part of those camps, still part of the build out of the Houston camp there every year. So, look, that's a legitimate – when you run a 4.59 laser start, laser finish, and a 4.12 shuttle at an Under Armour camp, you're in the top 5% nationally of all the kids that come to the camps. That's the type of time he put up. There aren't a lot of 4.3s. This isn't the Nike camp. There are not a lot of 4.3s and 4.4s. So once you get under that 4.6 number, you are elite in terms of test speed testing and agility testing numbers at an Under Armour camp. And he's certainly that. I expect him to be a guy that goes from 10, 12, 14 offers to 25, 27, 28 by the end of May. But good on Terry Joseph for getting on him quickly. Steve Sarkisian for getting him on the phone last Monday and then getting him and his mom to campus immediately. Great job by Texas. Now you get the last official visit. Good spot to be. So, again, thank you for joining us tonight on myperfectfranchise.net is our sponsor, the Wednesday live stream. I believe we're going to have a guest here checking in with us soon. Hopefully, our producer, Matthew Hutchinson, will bring him up when he comes in. But to say, I'll say this. He's one of the very best prospects in the country. So we're excited to have him when he joins us. Again, let's reset the top of the show. Samaje Burrell no longer with the football program. We've hit on that. Recruiting-wise, Marcus Harris from Mater Dei getting into town in Austin tonight, attending practice, team meetings, position meetings, and practice tomorrow, along with Jackson Blackwell, defensive lineman from Lorena, who could also be one of the top center prospects in the country if he ever decided to do that. And then Jonathan Cunningham from North Crowley, linebacker, scheduled to be on campus. We'll hit that one up. We'll check in with Jonathan Cunningham again tonight. Joshua Joe says, since Bear is a no-go, who are we targeting for DT? Look, here's what I'm going to continue to say about the portal is there's a lot of conjecture out there. Here are my keys with the portal. If one of the names that people are talking about hits the portal, there's two keys in the whole portal recruiting. If you go into the portal and click the no contact box, game's on. That means the kid knows where he's going. And that could be good news for Texas if a couple of names hit the portal. If a guy goes in and doesn't click that box, negotiation on, anybody can recruit him, and you never know what's going to happen at that point. So we'll see. I think Texas, Bobby Burton's been saying it. I totally agree with him. Texas wants 2 defensive linemen out of the portal. So we'll see. I believe they'll get that done. But the who is kind of the question now. For those that haven't heard today, that is Bear Alexander announced on social media that he plans to stay at USC. And obviously there was a lot of news with that yesterday. It broke from the USC side that he was expected to enter the portal. And that's why Bobby said if when he was talking about him. And I was kind of like, see what happens with Bear Alexander. Anybody that covered his recruitment knows there's not really a straight lane here. This thing's all over the place and was all over the place after his freshman year at high school through today. So he says he's staying at USC. And like CJ said, hey, the portal hasn't even opened yet. Who knows what's going to happen with these guys? But Bear would have to really walk that one back after what he put out today. So a lot of people in the chat is talking about players that may leave. So we'll see on that. Look, here's the reality. Texas has 88 scholarship players with Burrell dismissed from the team. They have 4 guys set to come in. If they take a couple out of the portal, that's 6. That puts you at what, CJ, 94. So I mean, there's going to be some attrition here. Some guys are going to go, and that number is probably going to reach 6 or 7.
Yeah, I expect it to hit 7. I think that if you're Texas and you're looking at your defensive line spot, listen, it's very rare in my eyes for one of those instant impact, game-changing interior defensive linemen to enter the portal. And that's why whenever, the flirtations of a Bear Alexander was entering the portal, I think regardless of the history of the prospect, you look at the needs on the team and you say, yeah, we're in a position right now to win right away. If we need to add a kid with a red flag or not, you're going to lean on your culture and you're going to lean on the guys in your locker room to get him right. Of course, it certainly helps that he's played with a pair of Longhorns on the team as well in the past, which, Jerry, considering how many schools he attended in high school, I'm surprised that number isn't higher. But point being, at this point, if you're Steve Sarkisian and you understand what you're missing might be the piece that gets you over the top against a Georgia, against an Ohio State, listen, I understand taking the risk and rolling the dice there. It's a little different from going out and, adding a few pieces with, red flags from before when your team wasn't winning. Now that you've got that culture instilled in the locker room and you have goals of winning and hoisting championship trophies at the end of the season, it makes more sense to me because then the buy-in's a little bit higher. Now it's not just, let me go get my tape for the NFL. Let me go get my bag because I'm at Texas. Now it's let's work cohesively to go win a national championship, which I think in my eyes is a little bit different of a setting than what Texas had originally when Sarkisian arrived. Now there's a plan in place for these guys who are added out of the portal, come in looking to work right away. Look at Trey Moore, look at Makuba, look at Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond. A lot of these high high caliber, highly talented guys coming in and just being seamless additions. So right now, in my eyes, if there is another guy that Texas can add out of that portal for the interior defensive line spot that might have, something on the back burner a little bit, I think you still take the risk, because that is a spot that could get you from being a playoff caliber team to a team that wins the SEC or even a national championship.
Yeah, good stuff there, CJ. Everybody's talking. Kenneth Grant is the big topic. We'll see what happens with Kenneth Grant. Kim said, "Who's going to win the District of Doom this year?" So, Barry Horn, we're going to get to your question on Marcus Harrison, wide receiver recruiting shortly. District of Doom this year. Okay, that is Duncanville, DeSoto, Cedar Hill, Mesquite Horn, new guys. Hey, congrats! You get put in the district. Dallas Skyline. It's a very, very tough district. Waxahachie, Lancaster now in that district. Wow. There's going to be 70 Division I football players in that district, probably freshman through senior class. I'm going with Duncanville because Keelan Russell's back at quarterback. That's where I'm really going with Duncanville right now. And I think the most young talent coming up, joining already a talented team, is where I'm going to go with that. But it's going to be very competitive. I'm telling you, Cedar Hill on the offensive and defensive line looks really good.
Right.
They have some really good. Everybody talks about the Coleman triplets. Obviously, Devin and Jordan Coleman, the offensive linemen, who I think are Texas leans. But they have some young defensive linemen who really have a chance over there. Obviously, DeSoto, Duncanville won state last year. Cedar Hill went 4 games deep. Skyline. I was out at Skyline for track practice a few weeks ago, and Dallas Skyline's got a lot of talent themselves. This is a district where, Mesquite Horn has a ton of talent in that district, and welcome to the new district, by the way. This is a great time, by the way, to bring in our guest tonight. He is part of that District of Doom, one of the top linebackers in the country, Mr. Elijah Barnes. What's up, Elijah? How are you?
I'm good. How y'all doing?
I'm good, man. That's everybody. First question is everybody's talking about the district, man. You play in probably the toughest district in the state of Texas right now. Before we get to what we want to talk to you about is kind of take us through a Texas visit. Kind of what was that like for you Saturday? But talk about the district you play in, man. You guys are challenged. Everybody's challenged every Friday night, and that makes you a better player, right? You have to bring it every night.
Yes, sir. Just with that, it's just going out there competing, against the best. That's what you want, as a player, just to make your mark, really, just playing against the best people in the state. It's just really just another opportunity, to showcase your name and, make big plays and big time, moments and stuff like that. So, it really does. When we moved into the district, it really just motivated me, really just to, work harder and really, get ready for the season and stuff like that.
All right, this is Elijah Barnes. We're being joined by a Dallas Skyline 4-star linebacker, one of the very best linebackers in the country. Was on campus Saturday for Texas' big recruiting weekend. Elijah joined by CJ Vogel as well. So kind of talk to us about the Texas visit. So for the Texas fans, they'll never get to experience what you experienced Saturday. Kind of talk about that visit day, kind of what goes into that, kind of take them through what you did on Saturday at Texas.
Kind of when I first got there, I got greeted by the whole staff, by the recruiting ladies and stuff like that. And then met with some of the players and stuff like that. Got to get interviewed by, not interviewed, but got to speak with Jerry, of course. And showed up to the facility, got shown great love by the staff and stuff like that. And then moved on to position meetings, with the linebacker.
You're good.
Oh.
Your volume's down, Elijah.
Probably got a call from a coach, huh?
Yeah,
that's what I would suspect.
Yeah, so a lot of people. We'll get him back here in a second, man. But we'll get the. He'll pop back in a second. I've been through that. We had that with Coach De La Torre. Sometimes if you're on your phone and you get a call, and knocks you off a little bit. Brett Nelson asked Jerry, over under 3.5, 5 stars. Texas signs, man. That's bringing it, CJ. That's a big number.
That is a big number.
I'll let you jump out there on that one first.
Man, that's fun because it at the moment you're looking at the wide receivers Texas had on campus over the last week, and a number of them are listed as 5 stars on the, depending on which service you value the most right now. If you look at a Decorian Moore, a guy like Khalif Lockett, who's a 5-star on a recruiting service, Jamie French is a 5-star as well out there. Listen, I think you grab 2 at the position there if you're going off of that. Where else do you add big pieces? Well, that'll be interesting. Right now, I think 3 is a fair amount at the moment.
Yeah, I think 3 is a good number. The other thing with rankings right now is they're going to fluctuate. They're going to recalibrate. It's going to change, right? So could Lance Jackson end up being a 5-star prospect? Not out of the question, right? Could a guy like a Hayden Lowe, who Texas is chasing out of Oaks Christian and Westlake Village there, he could end up making a big jump. There's a number of guys that can make big jumps. Hey, we're talking the one right here. So we never know. We have Elijah back. So I guess kind of you were talking about the team meeting or position meetings. I guess kind of go from there and what that day was like for you.
Just going into the teaming, just seeing how the college, experience works and stuff like that. I just got the experience, just to see how Coach Nansen coaches and, how he just tells his players, what to do, before going out there and competing, against those other guys on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, you mentioned Coach Nance, and of course, he just was added to the Texas staff a few months ago. Talk about your relationship with him and how quickly he was to get on the phone with you to start building that relationship and line of communication.
Man, I mean, soon as he came to see me, at my school, it was just kind of a bond, right then and there, and then ever since then it just took off. He calls me, almost every week, hits me up, asks me how I'm doing, asks how my family's doing and stuff like that. And, I just repeat the same, how he's doing and stuff like that. We just really just check up on each other and stuff like that. Coach Nancy, he's a really good guy. I mean, I feel like he can just help me, through my college career and, help develop me.
Hey, Elijah, talk about like when you go on these visits. I mean, when you're going through the visit process, are you a guy that asks questions? Do you go in with questions you want to ask, or do you kind of sit back and take it all in, or do you do a little bit of both?
I do a little bit of both, but mainly just kind of just sit back and just really just soak everything in, listen to what they have to say, and, just really, yeah, like I said, just soak it all in and, just ask questions, in the mix of it and stuff like that. So
I wanted to get your thoughts on what you saw from the scrimmage. Don't go too much into detail. Of course, there's some lines that we can't be crossing here. But Elijah, what was the physicality like? We talked a little bit afterward. You seem to have liked it.
I mean, man, they was getting after it. Just with David Bender, just going downhill and just really just making plays, all kinds of plays, and Anthony Hill as well. Both of those guys, playing with each other is just greatness, just out there. Of course, the running backs was hitting it in the hole too. I can't lie about that one. They was all getting after it. I should say that was my favorite part, of the day.
Yeah. So Elijah, for those that are, are getting to know you, right? What is kind of recruiting? The only recruiting question I'm going to ask you is what schools you kind of consider? What's next on your visit plan so people can keep up with you?
My next visit is Texas A&M. I was getting down there, just to check things out and, just get to see, everything, what they have in store for me, things like that. So.
And you got Oregon coming up after that?
Oregon next week, and then I got an official set up for Nebraska.
Okay, and then you have and your other officials. You have Ohio State and Texas.
State, SMU and Texas. Yes.
There you go. So for the Texas, everybody's like, cancel your business. For the Texas fans out there, now you can keep up with Elijah Barnes and where he's going to be as far as the recruiting visits. All right, so I want to ask you this. What makes you one of the top linebackers in the country? If we turned on your video right now, what makes Elijah Barnes the guy that Steve Sarkisian, Ryan Day, Mike Elko? Do I need to keep going down the list? Mike Norvell, everybody went to Dallas Skyline to spend time talking to you. What makes you that guy? I think we have you back. You're good. Hey, Elijah, your audio's out again. So he may have to back out and come back in once again. So
hey, I tell you what, Jerry, it does. I was going to ask him. This was going to be my next question because I see it all the time and I hear about it. But for these kids that are getting recruited by every school in the country, there's no downtime. You know, to do something like this, you're probably missing 2, 3, 4, 5 calls from college coaches across the country. To me, this is probably a sit back, relax, kick my feet up because now I don't have to, put my game face on to talk to a defensive coordinator across the country, a head coach somewhere else. This is the fun part, I would say. But
Ryan Nelson's on a roll. First it was Sark calling, now it's Coach Nansen calling. Hey, you know what I would say, Ryan Nelson? It's probably everybody else calling right now, seeing him online, but. Elijah, so I guess the last thing we have for you, man, we're going to let you go because we know college coaches blow you guys up nonstop. What makes you one of the top linebackers in the country if you put on the film?
Really just my speed. That's what really separates me from everybody else. As you can see here, I mean, just attacking the ball. The point.
He just can't. Hey, this is the life of a college guy, right?
I'm saying, hey, there's always makes me glad I wasn't recruited.
Hey, so we're gonna keep watching this, but I'll tell you this before we get to that last part with Elijah. So everybody's having so much fun with this. So I was at the district prelims last week of District 11 and 6A. And when Elijah ran 10.96 at 230 pounds, I was kind of taken aback. I was like, whoa, okay. I mean, I knew he was running 11-1 range, but then to put that sub 11 on the board, same heat with DeCorian Moore, who ran 10.4 in that heat, and then DeCorian came back and ran 10.45. For Elijah Barnes, I want to say this too. The day I was at Skyline, I was talking to the head coaching staff there. It was everybody talked about the work ethic with Elijah and the intelligence, the football intelligence he has, that you can move him around within a defense. You can do anything you want to with Elijah. And he has that football intelligence. And okay, so we've been watching the film. We're not going to make you break that down. But so here's the last thing for you, because we know you got college coaches you got to talk to. 10.96. I was there, happened to be there. I got lucky that day. What did that mean to you, man? Because that's a big number at 230 pounds to run sub 11 flat and 100. He may not be. Yeah, hey, Elijah, we just don't have your audio.
Man.
All right, we'll get it back on, though. We'll get it back on, CJ.
Hey, that was good, though. We got a little peel back of the curtain to see what it was like for him walking up, gotten, the red carpet treatment right there with the recruiting staff, the recruiting personnel out there for Texas. He wasn't going to leave empty-handed, Jerry, and we certainly saw that as well, coming out with a little packet there with Coach Nansen's name on it. So Texas isn't going to slow down, and as you can see with the tape, I mean, there's no reason to. Very talented prospect, one of the top linebackers not only in the state but the entire country.
We got you back.
I'm back with y'all.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm back with y'all.
Okay, last thing we have for you. 10.96 at 230 pounds, man. How much did that mean to you? We've seen 100+ tackles, okay, but what did that mean to you?
I mean, it was just a great accomplishment for me. That's something I wanted, for the whole year. Been getting so close. I ran 11-1 my sophomore year. got so close to that 10. I was so happy that I broke it. This last go around. Of my track career. Really, that was my last track meet. And I went out with a bang. So.
And kind of goals for next year. Obviously, you're going to be a midterm graduate in December. Your goals for next year, your senior year.
Really just hoping to, make it to the playoffs. Get my team in the best position as possible to win and stuff like that. Make 200 tackles. Be an All-American. Win defensive MVP of the year. Those are the goals that I'm chasing. That's what I want. I'm gonna keep working, and hopefully I can accomplish those goals.
All right, that is Dallas Skyline 4-star linebacker Elijah Bo Barnes. Elijah, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to have you back on again, and good luck with the recruiting process. And I'll be through to see you in a few weeks. All right.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Hook 'em, sir.
Thanks, Elijah.
Elijah gave you a little hook 'em there at the end, Texas fans. So that's Elijah Bo Barnes, linebacker, Dallas Skyline. CJ, I mean, look, 6'2.5", 6'3", 230 pounds, probably 79, 80-inch wingspan, almost 10-inch hands. But again, as impressive as all that what we saw on the tape, as impressive as the conversation we just had with him, I think football intelligence and physicality, I think, are the main things with him that make him so attractive nationally to college programs, linebackers, coaches. It's one thing, kind of like Bobby Burton's always said about the really high-end linebackers. When they hit you, the play is over.
Yeah.
And when Elijah hits you, the play is over. Yeah,
we saw that a number of times behind the line of scrimmage, no less, of him just coming straight downhill. And the minute contact is made, it's 2 hits. You talk about it all the time. 2 hits. It's Elijah hitting the running back and the running back hitting the floor. But, to me, when you talk about adding that kind of instincts and the intelligence in the middle of your defense and combine that with the speed of a 10.96, listen, that's what you want. And especially at 6'2.5", that to me is the whole package for a middle linebacker prospect. And one thing I look at right now, which, he mentioned it a little bit earlier when I asked him about the scrimmage. Yeah, I look at David Benda and I look at Anthony Hill, 2 very smart guys between the ears on the field. But also, those guys can fly around. Those guys have that ability to move around very quickly on the field. And I see that a lot while watching his tape earlier today. So it just kind of, to me, feels like Texas likes what they have in that linebacking group, and they can certainly find a way to start duplicating that as they continue moving forward.
And by the way, comes from a family of linebackers. His father played linebacker at Dallas Samuel and University of New Mexico, played Mike inside backer. So, look, man, family of linebackers there. So Elijah Barnes, the next national recruit out of Dallas Skyline. Thank you very much to Elijah for hopping on. As you can tell, the college coaching calls never stop. So Elijah, he's getting those calls all day long. All right, again, thank you very much to everybody for joining in this Wednesday night on Texas Football Longhorn Livestream. Want to take a second for our sponsor, My Perfect Franchise. Andy Ludicky and that team. Are you stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you can make or your schedule in general? Call Andy. He will take you through a process to help find a business that will fit your skill sets and financial goals. Franchise ownership is not for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your own destiny, call Andy or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Again, that's Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. Thank you very much for being the sole sponsor of the Wednesday night Longhorn live stream. All right, you guys are having a lot of fun with all this, as you should be. You're making us laugh. All right, CJ, let's reset the show real quick. We've had a lot of questions. Samaje Burrell no longer with the team, has been dismissed from the team. Bear Alexander puts out on social media, staying at USC. Recruiting visits tomorrow. Marcus Harris, modern day 4-star receiver. Jordan Davison, a teammate of his, 4-star running back, was on campus last weekend. Now it's Marcus Harris's turn tomorrow. We'll take in Texas practice. Obviously, high school teammates with Spencer Shannon and Brandon Baker there at modern day. Obviously, Chris Jackson went to Mater Dei. Steve Sarkisian loves recruiting Mater Dei. I could go on and on. Official visit June 21st through 23rd as well for Marcus Harris. Alabama visit locked in. Tennessee visit locked in. I think Oregon as well. So Marcus Harris on campus. Then Jonathan Cunningham scheduled to be on campus, 2025 linebacker from North Crowley. And then Jackson Blackwell, defensive lineman, a guy to watch a little bit. Texas is making a serious evaluation on him, 6'2.5-ish, 311 pounds, moves really, really well. Was at TCU last Friday, a guy that's kind of rising right now. A guy that'll pick up 10, 12 more offers in the May evaluation period. So those are some of the names. They're going to be coming in tomorrow, CJ. And again, we need to we've had a lot of talk about, so let's reset the Samaje Burrell situation.
Yeah, of course. Samaje was going to enter the portal on Monday, regardless of the situation that occurred with Tavondre Sweat. An unfortunate one, but I think a lesson in the long run that will certainly be one that he, will be glad that he went through, and essentially one that, in the long run, as long as he can learn about it and kind of take those steps forward, I'm glad no one was seriously injured in the process. Samaje was also dealing with a bit of a shoulder issue that he sustained in the weight room a week ago. That was going to keep him out of the scrimmage on last Saturday, and he was not going to suit up for the spring game later this month. So Samaje's playing days at Texas were going to be wrapped up. It is just, as we mentioned, Jerry, very unfortunate that it went out like this. Again, fortunately, hopefully somewhere he can find his way on, find his groove back, basically get a new start somewhere on his feet, hit the ground running there, and continue playing football somewhere else.
And by the way, Juju Juice, Coyote Armstrong said he's coming in this weekend too. That is correct. That 4-star tight end from Jasper will be in town this weekend. Part of a number of guys from the Night Riders 7-on-7 team, including Tyon Tank King from Port Arthur Memorial, who Texas offered earlier this week. We told you about that on TexasFootball.com that an offer was coming. We didn't say to who, then he put it out, but we were letting him put that news out. So a number of those guys from that 7-on-7 team, including Armstrong, are scheduled to be in town this weekend. Obviously, Coyote Armstrong, Jasper tight end, 6'5", 255-ish, will make official visits to LSU, Texas A&M, and Texas June 21st through 23rd. One of the three tight ends for two spots, really. Amari Winston's committed. Then there's Nick Townsend, who's maybe in for the April 20th spring game. We'll see. Right now he's scheduled to be at FSU, but he's going to visit Texas June 21st through 23rd, and then obviously Armstrong. So three big-time tight ends for two spots. Texas already has one commitment at tight end. Amari Winston, he's visited a couple of places. He was at UCF a few weeks ago. So we'll see how all that kind of figures itself out as we go on.
Hey, Jerry,
yeah.
We actually just got a statement from Steve Sarkisian about Samaje Burrell and his status with the team. Quote, "We're aware of the situation involving Samaje Burrell and have suspended him indefinitely from all team activities for conduct detrimental to the program." So nothing new, obviously, a little bit of a suspension there. We don't expect that to, essentially matter here. He is out the door. He will be, again, playing his football and finishing his football career elsewhere outside of the Texas football program.
Dylan Christie, do we have a shot at Jonah Williams? I'm going to address that again because it's been come up a lot. Jonah Williams from Galveston Ball, a 4-star safety. Some people have him as a 5-star, really good player, top 50 kid in the country, wherever people have him ranked, really talented. Two-sport guy, baseball, big time. He was on campus with his mother and father on Saturday. Kelshawn Johnson from Hitchcock actually rode with him to the visit because Kelshawn's mom is a nurse and she was working last weekend. Both Galveston County guys know each other. Jonah Williams, Texas did well. They made up some ground on the unofficial visit Saturday. Got a lot of attention from Steve Sarkisian, then Blake Gideon, who's the area recruiter, as well as obviously the safeties coach at Texas. I think Oklahoma continues to be the favorite there. I'm not saying it's a lock, right? In recruiting, there's a long way to go in a lot of this process. But I do think Jonah Williams has been an Oklahoma lean for a while, especially since going up there in January for a junior day visit. And Oklahoma has been recruiting him at safety all along. That kind of hybrid position Brent Venables has in his scheme, where some other schools, Texas being one of those, recruited him at linebacker for a while. Then Jeff Choate went to Nevada. Texas transitioned him back to safety, and Blake Gideon, the area recruiter, really took over that recruitment. But Texas is all in on Jonah Williams. They love Jonah Williams and Cade Phillips at Hightower. Those are two of the top safety prospects, probably the top two safety prospects on the board for Texas. Texas canceled some other visits, guys that were supposed to be coming in this weekend. Texas said they have some other high priority targets, which means they feel good about a couple of guys. And I'm not saying Jonah Williams necessarily one of those. I think Cade Phillips. I think Texas feels pretty good about Cade Phillips. Cade will visit LSU and Texas A&M. He'll also visit Baylor. By the way, some spring games going on this week. Really get going. Really get going this weekend. And LSU's a big spring game coming up this weekend. Brandon Brown, Texas commitment, currently scheduled to be there. Zion Williams, Cade Phillips. So Texas and LSU are going to go head-to-head a lot on guys in this class and in the future. So we'll see who exactly shows up for that LSU spring game. We've had some DeCorian.
Add DeCorian to that too, Jerry. Of course,
DeCorian is scheduled to be there. He's DeCorian. We'll see what happens. DeCorian, as of Monday, was not scheduled to be at LSU this weekend. So, well, I'll double check. We'll see what happens there. So Peter, the great update on the 409 tight end from Jasper, Keone Armstrong. We just mentioned that he's coming in this weekend. We've been reporting that On Texas Football for a while. He'd been at A&M twice in the last 3 weeks, I believe. He'll officially visit June 21st through 23rd. On DeCorian Moore, look, I don't think anything's imminent with DeCorian Moore. I think the process is going to play out. I think Texas is I put out percentages. I had Texas with a higher percentage than LSU. I stand by that. I think the recruitment will play out a while. That's what I'll say. I think there'll be visits to Oregon, visits to Ohio State, official visits in June. Texas, he hasn't announced his official visit dates yet as of when we went on the air that I'd seen, but I'll be surprised if June 21st through 23rd isn't an official visit to Texas for DeCorian, but we'll let him put those dates out. So again,
hey, Jerry, I wanted to jump back to Jonah Williams real quick, because on that trip, he also got to, see the baseball facility and take a little golf cart trip out to the other side of I-35 and see what was going on at the dish. Of course, Texas was about to start their rubber match with BYU Saturday afternoon. Wasn't there for the game, but there, to see the pregame warmups, kind of walk through facility and see what's going on with David Pierce and the squad there. You mentioned Texas is, moved towards getting Jonah Williams recruited at the safety position. Now that baseball is kind of in the picture at Texas, now that they're at least in that safety big board, would you say there's anything that Texas is necessarily lacking at in that recruitment? Is it all about just getting up to speed with what he wants to hear and, of course, continuing to build that relationship?
Yeah, I think the baseball component is big. Again, I think it's the relationship building. The big part will be the official visit for me. You get through that spring evaluation period, you continue to build the relationship, and you really get down to it in June. I think that's going to be so big in that recruitment, and we'll see. I'm interested to see what official visits actually get scheduled with that recruitment. That's what I'm watching, because right now only Oregon, I think, has a for sure date. I'm interested to see where things are going to go with that. We had a couple other questions I want to hit on here. Any news on Jackson Christian for Port Neches Groves? Jackson Christian will visit Texas this weekend unofficially. That's the offensive lineman at PNG, one of the top 20, 25 offensive linemen in the state. I think one of the top interior guys in the country. Great year for offensive linemen in Texas. But he's scheduled to be on campus April 13th as well. Again, big visit weekend for Texas. I want to address this one. Juju Juice. OU fans swearing they stole a commitment from Texas with the Hawkins kid. I mean, obviously, his father played at Oklahoma. Look, he had been on campus before. Was that a top target for Texas at corner? No, that doesn't mean he's not a really talented prospect, by the way. But Dorian Brew, who was on campus last weekend, Kobe Sellers, and Aiden Anding, who was on campus last weekend, and Adonis Curry out of Quartz Hill in Lancaster, California. Texas would still love to get him on campus for a visit. Those are pretty much your 4 top corners right now for Texas. And a guy like Cade Phillips, he probably is going to be a safety, but could he play a boundary corner? Not out of the question, but I do think he transitions to safety with that skill set long term. So those are the top corners. And look, Hawkins, talented player. CJ, you probably know a little bit about that one. That was expected to go to OU the whole way.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with his brother on campus now, the quarterback Michael Hawkins up there as well. So Oklahoma, what they're doing right now with that cornerback recruiting is certainly very interesting. Of course, they just added Hawkins to the fold. Kobe Sellers is one that, looking at right now, probably in a great spot for at the moment. Cortland Guillory, another one who I was told was up on campus in Norman over the weekend when Texas had their big recruiting visit for the scrimmage this past weekend. Guillory and Sellers were both in Norman, kicking it with Jay Valai and the Sooners up there. So it'll be interesting. Of course, Texas and OU, certainly familiar with one another in the terms of the recruiting trail and the battles that they've had there. OU needs a good year this year. Looking at their class now, they'll certainly get their guys. I think that will never be a question with Oklahoma, especially on the offensive line. But when you start looking elsewhere in the big money positions, defensive line, the edge positions, they've done well in the past, but you've got to continue to build on the field. And that comment, if Oklahoma goes 7-5 this year, which isn't entirely out of the picture, it could be a long year for the Sooners on the recruiting trail.
Hey, Patrick Page, Longview's hosting Ruston in September. Do you have a date on that one? I haven't checked Longview's schedule, but if I can be up there for that game, probably a good chance I might, because I can also hit some other schools. So that actually sounds like a lot of fun for me to go to. Taylor John, we got this super chat from Justin Yarborough. How many over the ball DTs does Texas go after in high school recruiting versus 3 techs? Keep up the work. Great work, guys. Thank you, Justin, for that. Look, I think Texas would like 1.5 over the ball players, if that makes sense. One guy that's a for sure over the ball player and another guy that can play a 3 tech and can play over the ball. I think they're going to take 3 or 4 high school defensive linemen in this class. I tend to lean to 4. But we'll see. It all depends on the level. Texas is not going to settle for a high school D lineman. If they take a guy, they really believe he's a guy.
Of the guys that, we've seen visit Texas, or at least Texas has, certainly been around for in their recruitment, who are the over-the-ball techs? We look at Zion Williams. Who else?
Yeah, so Zion Williams is made. He was built to play over the football, and that's what he is. But look, here's the thing about a Brandon Brown and a Josiah Sharma. They can both play over the ball. Byron Murphy played over the ball, right? Brandon Brown could be devastating over the ball at times, but you like him more as a 3 tech. And Josiah Sharma can play either way. A guy like Myron Charles from Port Charlotte, who was on campus last Friday, I think he may schedule an official visit in June, come back. He's more of a 3 tech guy for me. Texas would love to get Malik Autry on campus this weekend. He's a guy who could play either. So I think Texas wants that versatility. Zion's the one guy that I have pegged as an over-the-ball guy in this class. I think the other guys that are the top targets, they could play some could play over the ball, but a lot of those guys could play that 3 tech as well. I think Texas is really looking for that combination.
I wanted to get your thoughts on that because we saw the comments about Brandon Brown and what kind of talent he is, and we both think he's a bit undersold on those recruiting sites. I got to see him in person the other day before his Texas visit, before he went out to Houston for a 5-on-5, 7-on-7 tournament up there. But I asked because maybe not necessarily listed or has the big time 330-pound build at the moment, but certainly a guy that could build into that, could grow, develop, whatever. But you look at a guy like Byron Murphy, who also short arms, not necessarily the biggest dude, played right around 315, 320. Is that a mold in which you could see him being used over the center in the same way? Because Byron Murphy at Texas, almost a quarter of his snaps a year ago were over the A-gap. Not necessarily what you'd expect with a Tavondre Sweat right next to you, who only saw about 1/9 of his.
Yeah, no doubt. So Brandon Brown to me, Ekim asked, what is he 3-I? I think Brandon can play over the ball all the way to 5. I think he's that level player. I think he's that level prospect. So for those that haven't seen him, not many people have seen him in person, even in our profession, sadly. I think he's closing in on 6'2". He's still 16. Hasn't even turned 17 yet. Maybe he is in May, I believe. So he's still 16-year-old junior. He's still got some growth in him, but he has a little longer arm than Byron Murphy. He's about an inch and a quarter taller. So he's closing in on 6'2", or I think Byron was 6'1.5" without shoes. So Brandon Brown's a little bit taller, a little bit longer guy. I think he'll carry 305, 310 pounds. long-term very, very well, but he's such an explosive, twitched-up guy.
Yeah.
I just think as he develops, he's going to be able to play about anywhere. That's how high I am on Brandon Brown.
I agree, because you watch that tape from a year ago that he put out, and I mean, it felt Byron Murphy-esque because of the way that he explodes through the line of scrimmage with how physical he is at the point of attack, and quite frankly, how often you see bodies just kind of flying around after he gets his hands on them. That's why I asked, because it's interesting now. I think guys sometimes get dead set on being a nose or a guy right over the center. With a guy like Byron Murphy and now Brandon Brown, I think that, the possibilities with where you can throw him more so is dependent upon what you need him to do rather than what he can do. And with a talent like Brown, he can certainly do a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of my favorite prospects in the country I've seen, and I can't wait to get out and see him in May again. Sean, is it possible that Elijah Barnes commits to the University of Texas live on the show? No, that would have been fun, but no. Elijah's going to go on with that recruiting process. As he said, he's got A&M this weekend. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. He's got A&M this weekend, Oregon on the 20th, and he's got Nebraska first official visit that last weekend of April. He's also got SMU in mid-May official visit. Then he has Ohio State May 31st through June 2nd, and right now it's Texas June 21st through 23rd. So those are the official visits. Does an A&M get an official visit in there before Texas in June? We'll see. Taylor Johnson, how's Santana Wilson done so far? So this was always a surprise to me, but he's one of the few guys that wasn't an early enrollee in this class. But to be fair,
he's working.
It's not easy to be an early enrollee, graduate early from high school in the state of Arizona. Christian Clark had to go through a lot of hoops to get that done. It also shows you how just football dedicated to Christian Clark is. Not that Santana Wilson's not. He just wanted to finish out his senior year, do senior prom, train probably or with his father and a bunch of NFL guys. Santana Wilson's prepping about as well as a defensive back can prep for getting to college in June. So Santana Wilson will be in Austin after he graduates from high school. We've had him on this show a couple of times. Yeah. Awesome interview.
Hey, he told Rod he had a very long, lengthy kind of workout regimen ready. Of course, his father kind of showing him the ropes a little bit there, but he was certainly acting like he was very prepared behind the scenes and excited to get to Austin when the summer comes rolling around.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Again, thank you, everybody, for joining in and giving us shout-outs, giving comments tonight. If you joined us on Twitter, like, subscribe to On Texas Football. We have coffee and football 5 days a week. We have the winning drive with CJ and Rod and Coach Shipley tomorrow afternoon. Shows all in between. So thank you for everybody joining us on Twitter tonight. We have so many guys following us now on that. And thank you to everybody who's made comments today and tonight. Adam Lane, do we take 3 at D-end edge? I'm leaning that way with Jackson Orogbo and the kid from Cali. Look, Lance Jackson, one of the very best in the country. I actually have an update on him today. Somebody asked on Coffee and Football, and that's kind of a reminder. So I'm going to read what I got today from Lance Jackson. Lance Jackson, he hurt sprained an AC joint at the Houston Under Armour camp, and he was out there dominating everybody, which will probably make him a 5-star. But so he's been off the mound for a while. He's 2 weeks away, I think, from getting back on the mound. So they're not rushing him back. He wants to make sure he's 100% good. But Lance Jackson will be back nearing playoff time, I think, as a pitcher for Pleasant Grove there. He was hitting 94, 95 miles an hour. He had 3 saves this year, 1 start before that injury at the Under Armour camp in Texas. Not a major injury, just a more rest and get that thing back injury. No surgery required. So he should be back on the mound in a couple of weeks. And Pleasant Grove, one of the top-ranked baseball programs in the state of Texas in their classification for sure. Smith Orogbo, love him as a prospect. Twitched up, long arm guy, can pursue from the backside, gets in the backfield in a hurry. He was at Texas Saturday with teammate Ike Okafor, a 5-tech type of D lineman in the 25 class that's got Arizona State and Cal official visits set up. But I think Smith Orogbo definitely got to watch. And obviously Hayden Lowe from Oaks Christian is the kid from Cali that you were referencing, one of the very top guys in the country. And look, the crazy thing about Hayden Lowe, I've said this before, is when Johnny Nansen had been on him in Arizona, so he'd offered him, I think, 2 years ago. So he was on him, and I made a couple of calls out on the West Coast. Somebody was like, hey, he may be better than Kayvon Thibodeau one day. I was kind of, whoa, it took me back. Kayvon Thibodeau we had in the Under Armour game when I was at ESPN. He's the number 1 high school player in the country, went on to be a first-round pick. And that's not in high school. They meant one day. They think some people on the West Coast, some college coaches think he has a very high ceiling. So Hayden Lowe's scheduled to be in June 14th through 16th for an official visit. Same weekend, Smith Orogbo. Same weekend, Lance Jackson. So there's a theme. The edge guys are coming in the 14th through 16th. The other edge guy Texas has scheduled for visits, Damian Shanklin out of Indianapolis, Warren Central. That's June 21st through 23rd. But right now, Marcus Freeman has a big old head start on the 4-star from the Indianapolis area, CJ. So yeah, that's kind of the is it Zachary Delgado? I'll let you address this. Was Hawkins a take for Texas? The answer is no, but it doesn't mean he's not a really good player.
Yeah, I think Hawkins is a very talented player. Of course, he comes from a pedigree of where his family certainly knows what it takes to get to the NFL. Brother also at Oklahoma. He did visit Texas during the summer of 2023, did not return for a game, did not visit for the junior day, and also on January 20th, and also was not on campus here in the spring. So for me, Texas certainly had their guys at the cornerback position that they wanted to pursue. We mentioned a few of them earlier. Dorian Brew, of course, in that group, Aiden Anding. You can certainly look at where Texas is getting these visitors from the state of Texas at the cornerback spot. Hawkins, good talent. He was destined to go to Oklahoma from the start of his recruitment. That's one that I don't think Texas lost a lot of sleep over when he announced his commitment earlier today. But, Jerry, I wanted to tell the folks, because we got a lot visiting right now, about OTF OG. Come join us on the community. We want you guys to become an OTF OG, all right? So come join us at ontexasfootball.com. We're running a special right now. $20 off. I like saving money. You like saving money. We can save money together at ontexasfootball.com. $20 off an annual subscription on the site if you use the code OTFOG. That's OTFOG for $20 off instead of $60 a year. It's just $39.95. That's a steal. Come on,
it's a steal.
Or you can get a monthly subscription for $5.95. For more insider news on the team recruiting, make sure you check out ontexasfootball.com and become an OG at OTFOG. Come on, come join the community.
Ryan Nelson, who you got in the Cristobal versus Napier Week 1 toilet bowl in Gainesville? Here's my take. Florida better win that game. Napier better win that game. The interesting thing will be Cam Ward's first game at quarterback at Miami. That's going to be interesting for me. How much does he change that Miami team? I think it's a big upgrade at quarterback for Miami. Graham Mertz is locked in to be the quarterback at Florida this year. I think DJ Lagway needs some time. He's had some up weeks of practice, down weeks of practice in the spring from what I've heard. But DJ Lagway needs time. He's a true freshman quarterback. He's not going to save Napier. Graham Mertz and the rest of those guys are going to have to save Napier. All I'll say is if Billy Napier loses that game, man, good luck to him. Because the rest of the that schedule's brutal.
Hey, Jerry, I mean, it's one of those things where if you're Florida, do you let him just go out there, fall on the sword, and even do it in 2025? Because, again, that schedule just reflips, as we saw with the way that the SEC released the 2024 and 25 schedule. So, I mean, I'm glad that we're not currently in the position to cover this on a day-to-day, because that would just make life very much more difficult for all of us. But it's not a great spot right now for Billy Napier, certainly not with the way that schedule sets up. And I mean, we start questioning whether or not he will be the guy to even lead Florida at DKR. You know, it's one of those kind of conversations where it's worth having with how difficult that spot is.
Yeah, they need to have a good month of September, because the back end of that schedule is no man's land. And Florida's got talent. They're not void of talent. They have good players. They were very young in the secondary last year. I'm telling you, the sophomore slot receiver kid, Eugene Wilson's as good as there is in the country. He is tremendous. I saw him in high school. Absolutely loved him. And this was a compliment. A poor man's Jalen Waddle. And some people say poor man's, is that an insult? No, that's a compliment, because Jalen Waddle's a freak. He's a super freak. Eugene Wilson has some similarities there to Jalen Waddle. I'm not saying he's going to be Jalen Waddle, but he is a very good player. Florida's not void of talent. They just maybe don't have as many guys as you would expect. So they need to have a good couple of weeks in the portal at the University of Florida. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining in tonight. Somebody asked about Samaje Burrell, but the commenters, I think, have got everybody up to speed. For CJ Vogel, I'm Jerry Hamilton. Thank you for joining in to the On Texas Football Longhorn live stream on this Wednesday night. And thank you to Andy Ludicky. We're presented by MyPerfectFranchise.net. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.